Mr. Samurai San himself, the disgraced bodyguard of the Emperor. Goro, your unexpected friend throughout Cyberpunk 2077. Today we do a breakdown of Goro Takemura. When I first played Cyberpunk 2077, I thought this guy would be a cool boss to fight. In my head, I had it mapped out like this. We get to fight this gigantic gorilla ogre. The fight's probably going to be more of a shootout of sorts. And then with Mr. Samurai-san, it was going to be more of a Bushido code kind of fight. I was not expecting that he would actually become your ally at all. I was expecting that we would get to tell him the truth, and it was really up to him to decide if he was going to listen to us or not. But it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, he sides with you, and I really don't mind. He's a really good character. The only sad part about Takemura is we do not get to see enough of the good stuff. What I mean is he never really shows us his fighting capabilities. So we never get a way to measure his strengths and his weaknesses, but alas, we have the source books and there are a few things we can procure from what we have seen in the game. With that in mind, let us begin this samurai's story. While chilling and scouting the Arasaka Park, Goro tells us a little bit about his past. So we know he was from Chiba 11, one of the poorest districts in all of Japan. Hashtag sad Goro. This district, however, was under the control of the mighty Arasaka Corporation. On routine patrols, the Arasaka men are constantly looking for promising young children to take into the fold. I do not know how they decided which children was worth it. I don't know the picking process, because if it is the poorest district, that must mean that all the children are famished and starved. But anyways, Goro was one of the children chosen. He considered himself very lucky to have been picked. Imagine it was something along the lines of die homeless in the streets or make something of yourself in the corporation. Of course, most of us know that Arasaka is technically the bad guy, and this is something V points out to Takemura. V lets Goro know that he works for an evil company hell-bent on taking over the world. But this is not how Tekemura sees it. And for those of us who watch enough anime, we have seen this time and time again. A seemingly good character who works for an evil feudal lord. This in many ways has to do with the way of the Bushido. History time. Bushido is like a code of honor that samurais uphold when they are serving their lord. In the case of Takemura and many others, upholding this code means you never question your lord. An extreme version of never bite the hand that feeds you. So essentially, your lord could be the biggest butthole ever. He could be the meanest person, but that is not for you to decide. All you are there for is for his protection. You are his loyal guard, and that is all there is to it. Unlike V, Takemura never viewed Saburo Arasaka as an evil man. He technically gave Goro everything he has, from education, reputation, class, and standing. If you look at it from this perspective, it is easy to understand that Saburo is like a god to Goro. Remember, he came from the slums of Chiba 11, and here he is now with cyberware, with money, with maybe not fame, but reputation on his side, all because of Saburo Arasaka. And you couple that with the Bushido belief that many Japanese people live by, and you got yourself a loyal samurai even after death. Like it or not, you have to admit this is pretty noble. Foolish, but noble. A big chunk of Takemura's life is unfortunately never explained. From his childhood all the way up to the moment he was chosen to become the personal bodyguard of the Emperor, which leaves us in the dark when it comes to his training, what his role is, how he compares to other legends like Morgan BLACKHAND, and so forth. But with careful examination, we can decipher some of the missing information. First, we can understand that Takemura is a tenacious dude. Goro was definitely not the only candidate for the position of guarding the Emperor. There must have been thousands who were either recommended and or distinguished enough to have the opportunity to attain this position. But amongst all of them, it was the boy from the slums, Takemura, who was chosen. This highlights his strengths and overall skill. I may be causing some controversy, but I do believe Prime Tekemura was an equal to Morgan BLACKHAND. Don't kill me, guys. I'll get to the explaining shortly. And to understand Tekemura's skill, we're going to have to take a quick yet necessary detour. So we understand that the Arasaka family members all have their own personal bodyguards. So we have Adam Smasher for Yorinobu, there's Oda for Hanako, and of course Tekemura for Zaburo. Out of these three, only Adam Smasher is technically within the Cyberpunk core reference book. Tekemura and Oda are creations of CDPR when they collaborated with the board game company. So you have to understand that these two characters, there is no actual lore behind them. But if we look closely at the Arasaka history within the reference books, there is one particular character that may have been used as Tekemura. Let me explain. So, during Saburo's reign of Arasaka, he eventually stepped down as CEO and handed things over to his firstborn son, Kei. He is then killed mere weeks after the Night City Holocaust. It is after his death that Arasaka actually splits into three warring factions for who gets the Arasaka throne. We have Taka, which is Yorinobu's faction, the Kiji, which is Hanako's, and then the Hato, which is headed by Michiko Arasaka, Kei's daughter. These factions do not include Saburo because they are fighting for the role of CEO, and Saburo has already decided to become like head of the board in the company. So he's leaving that to those three people, and that's why there's some sort of divide within the company. Anyways, it's Michiko's guard that interests me here. His name is Ken Zaburo. All we know about this man is that he is the only person in the world that can fight BLACKHAND and battle him into a draw. Okay? That means he doesn't lose. Look, at this point, Morgan BLACKHAND is becoming the legend of legends. But I digress. Arasaka, in their ranks, had someone as capable as Ken, who in his own right should be a legend because of what he can do while fighting Morgan. Now, Ken is not in the Cyberpunk 2077 world that we play, and Tekemura is. However, Tekemura is not in the books. It may be too much of a stretch for me to say this, but I think Ken Zaburo in-game is supposed to be Tekemura. There are a lot of information that is changed from the source books into the game, small details that are shifted ever so slightly to make the game flow better. And I think this is one of those changes. If you guys think it is too much of a stretch, look at it this way. It wouldn't make sense for Michiko Arasaka to have the best bodyguard when she is the furthest from ascending the throne. And I think some of the writers for CDPR used the information of Ken Zaburo to create Tekemura. Again, this is completely my speculation, but it just makes sense. Why would the person who is called the Emperor not have a bodyguard as good as Morgan BLACKHAND? So I think they just shifted his character over from guarding Michiko to someone who guards Saburo Arasaka, and now we are left with Tekemura himself. So we also have the Pacific Rim sourcebook as an excellent place to find more info. In the sourcebook, they explain roles. One of the roles is called Corporate. The first line literally explains what I feel about Goro. You are a mix of 007 and a samurai. Period. If you guys remember, without knowing it, I used 007 as a way to explain who Morgan BLACKHAND is. I don't think it is a coincidence that a YouTuber in 2021 and an author from the early 90s came to the same conclusion, that guys like Tekemura and Morgan BLACKHAND are cut from the same cloth. Need I say more? This also explains a little bit more about Goro and what happens during his years of training. At first I was going to categorize Goro as a solo, but when I read parts of the Pacific Rim sourcebook, I knew there was no way he was not a corporate. Again, that definition of 007 mixed with a samurai explains who Tekemura is. Okay, so now for the rest of the story. Throughout the game, he seems like the shell of his former self. One of the things I often forget is that Tekemura gets his text removed from him, much like what happened to the corporate V once you get jumped at the mock spar. I'm not really sure how this works, but after the sabotage mission, V even praises Tekemura for putting up a fight without any of his cyberware. Let's not forget, he is also really old now, so without all the mods and cyberwares he did have, he is significantly weaker, but somehow he managed to survive. I always kind of viewed him as an old Obi-Wan kind of dude. Obi, when he first dueled and fought Darth Maul, he killed him, but he was jumping everywhere. But compare that to the older, much more wise Obi-Wan, and you get this. He then asks for V's help. As we progress throughout the story, we learn how smart and precise Goro is. He first decides that it would be smarter to scout the Arasaka Park before actually charging in and infiltrating. As gamers, of course, this doesn't matter to us, but if we allow ourselves to fully experience the world, we might consider that this is something we would also do. Let's not forget he also came up with the plan to actually kidnap Hanako, just showing how resourceful he can be. After reading all the lore, I feel like working with Tekemura in these missions is as close as we'll get to working with Morgan Blackhand, of course until CDPR introduces Blackhand himself. Depending on the choices you make, Goro could be dead or alive by the end of the game. If you choose the devil ending, you give full redemption to Goro as he is reinstated as a full-time Arasaka samurai. Overall, I do believe that Tekemura is the closest character in the game that represents the type of solo Morgan Blackhand is. He's got style, class, and enough attitude to win our hearts over. That is going to be it for me in this Goro Takemura breakdown video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. What do you think about Tekemura possibly being Ken Zaburo? Did I go too far when I compared him to Morgan Blackhand? Do you think he stands a chance against the #1 solo? Let me know what you guys think in the comments section below, and I will see you next time. Bye.